So this is a meditation on emptiness that was taught by Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So it carries the blessings from him. And it involves just trying to get in touch with our sense of I, and then searching for it, looking for it within our body and mind, within the basis of imputation, our body and mind. Okay, so start by making yourself comfortable, but not too comfortable that you would fall asleep. So we want to be able to stay awake and alert, have a sharp, clear, focused state of mind. And so the first few minutes, pay attention to your breath coming in and going out in order to settle your mind. Put aside or let go of any other thoughts not related to this meditation. So put them all aside and decide to really do the best you can to stay focused on this meditation. Now, continue to keep your mind focused, attentive, here in the present moment, present place. But see if you can get a sense of the I, the feeling of I. One way to do that is to remember a time when this feeling of I came up very strongly. This happens when we have some emotional experience. For example, if somebody insults us, does something we don't like, then there's a strong feeling of an I coming up. How could you do such a thing to me? How could you say that to me? How could you talk to me that way? It could also happen in times of happiness, excitement. If some really wonderful thing happens, somebody praises us, or we win a prize, we win an award. So again, in those moments, there's a strong feeling of the I, who has won this award, who is getting this attention, this praise, and so on. So try to recall such an experience in which this feeling, this sense of I came up very strongly. So when you are able to remember that experience, try to focus on the feeling of I rather than on the emotion or the situation or the other person. And try to focus your mind on that sense, that feeling of a real I. So this I seems to exist on its own, like a real thing. But if that is true, if it really does exist that way, the more carefully we examine it, the more clearly it should become. So we should be able to actually locate it, find it, point to something as being the I. So the first place that we will look is our body. So think about your body, the different parts of your body, and you could go through your body, starting from the top of your head, going down, or starting from your toes, going up. Just go through your body, scan your body, and see if you can find this I somewhere in your body, as some part of your body. So if you think that your I is some part of your body, then investigate that idea more carefully. For example, many people identify themselves with their brain. They think they are their brain. But think about what the brain really is. It's just a mass of cells. You say it's a bit sort of squishy, gray-colored jelly. So that's what the brain actually looks like. Most of us never even see a brain. But if we did, would we really feel that's me? Does that really fit our sense of self, our sense of I? For example, when we look in the mirror and we see our reflection, and we may have thoughts, oh, I'm pretty attractive, I'm good looking, or I don't look so good today. So are we seeing our brain in the mirror? So another possible place to look for the I is in the mind. So many people identify more with their mind, thoughts, feelings, experiences. So our mind is also made of parts. It's not just one solid, partless thing. It's actually more like a stream. It's more like a stream that is made up of moments of experience. So each moment there are different experiences arising, a thought, a memory, an emotion, a perception. So one after another, different experiences arise. They only last a moment, and then they pass, they disappear, the next one arises. So the mind is this constantly flowing and constantly changing stream of experiences, changing every moment. And there's all different kinds of experiences. There's thoughts, there's memories, there's emotions, there's good emotions, bad emotions. So if you think your I can be found in your mind, then check that idea more carefully. Which part of the mind is your I? And in case you think that all of your experiences are the I is the whole mind with all of its experiences, then doesn't that mean that we have millions or zillions or countless different I's? Because in one moment there's anger, another moment there's love, another moment there's happiness, another moment there's sadness or depression. So in fact, each moment there's a new experience. And that only lasts a moment, and then it goes, and the next one comes. So that means we're actually millions or zillions or countless I's. So does that really fit your sense of an I, sense of self? Something that arises and passes every moment, changes every moment. Is that really how you see your I? So then you might think, okay, the body, I can't find the I in the body, and I can't find the I in the mind, but maybe it's somewhere else, something else. Just examine that idea of there's some other part of you, some other thing existing within you that you can point to and say, that is the I. Now let's try a little trick on our mind. Imagine that all the parts of you separate from each other and float away in space. Start with your body. So our body is actually composed of trillions or zillions of parts, if we include all the tiny particles, molecules, atoms, subatomic particles. So imagine all those tiny particles separating from each other. No longer sticking together, but separating and just floating away in space, going out in different directions. And then do the same with the mind. Mind is also made up of parts, different experiences that arise each moment. So imagine all the different parts of the mind separating and going off in different directions, no longer sticking together as one continuous flow. Now, check your feeling of I, this feeling of a real, solid, independently existing self or I. Where is it? What is it? Now, let all the parts of yourself come back. All the parts of your body, all the parts of your mind. So let them come back together, reassemble them. And understand that Buddhism is not saying there is no I, no self, no me at all. That's a wrong conclusion. We do exist. There is an I, there is a me. But what it is just what we name or label on top of or in relation to our body and mind. So our body exists, made of all these particles, changing every moment. Our mind also exists, made up of all these different thoughts and memories and feelings and experiences, again changing every moment. So our body and our mind exist, they're changing every moment, but there isn't some thing within our body and mind that we can point to and say, that is I, that is the me, the self, the I. Instead, I is just what we name, just what we label, just what we impute on top of or in relation to our body and our mind. And thinking that there's more than that there's an I that isn't just named or labeled on top of our body and mind, but a real thing existing on its own, something we could point to, something we could find. There it is, that is it. that is the false I, the inherently existing I. And according to the Madhyamika Prasangika school, that kind of I doesn't exist. It's only fabricated by the mind, not a real thing. So, any questions about that? Did anybody feel scared? People do sometimes. They get they feel like they kind of lose their I, and then they get this fear, this panic.
It's a feeling like it's melting out of your system somehow when you meditate.
Yeah. So, actually they say it's a good thing to get that feeling. It's a good thing because it means that this, we normally have this feeling of a real solid I that nothing could ever shake, nothing could ever, get rid of. It's really there. So if there's a feeling of fear, it's kind of touching that. It's kind of pushing that button. So it's actually a good thing. It means you're doing a good job in your meditation. But on the other hand, it's good to be prepared for that, because if it's too frightening, I met this guy in France who was in a group of people meditating on emptiness like this, and he got so scared he didn't want to meditate again for a long time, a couple of years. It really frightened him away from practicing meditation. So I'm not sure if it's good to get that scared. Finally, he met Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and he told Rinpoche his experience. And Rinpoche said, "Oh, don't stop meditating, keep going. And if you feel that fear, just don't get into it, don't buy into it, don't believe that." I think the fear comes because we feel like I'm going out of existence. But we're not. The point is we're not going. I mean, we're still here. We're still sitting there meditating.
Who is the one afraid?
Yeah, exactly. There's somebody who's scared, so I do exist. So again and again, we're not trying to say we don't exist at all. There's nobody here at all. Obviously, I'm here. So we do exist, but the point is we don't exist the way we normally think. As this real, solid, findable, pointable. It's like we feel that I is something we can point to. There it is, that's it. That kind of I doesn't exist. That's the kind of I that we're trying to free ourselves from. So I think I saw your hand first. Yeah.
I had a question. You said the particles to float all over. I was trying to think who is staying to follow your meditation.
Yeah.
Because I was hearing.
Yeah. Well, that would be your mind.
Still.
Yeah. I mean, we do have a mind. This is just a trick. I mean, I think it's kind of a little trick we play on ourselves. But I think it is effective if we really, because it really helps us to see that, yeah, we're not such a solid thing. We're made up of all of these different parts. And which part is the I, if any? Are any of these parts an I? So it's just a kind of a powerful way to get you to look at that. It's not really happening anyway.
I have a strange feeling that it's nowhere and everywhere at the same time, but I can't really grasp it.
Somebody said that last time, didn't they? Who said that? Huh? It's nowhere and everywhere. You said that. What does that mean? It's nowhere and
It's
everywhere.
not findable.
Yes,
Yeah,
But it's there, but it's not findable.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. No.
it's an enigma, a mystery. But I think what they say is that this view, this innate belief in an inherently existing I, it does see the I in that way, as something that could be found, something that really does exist, such that if we just look hard enough, we'll find it. It's there. It's really there. So it has that kind of sense. This is the innate one. Maybe you didn't get in touch with the innate one, but because this is the problem. Sometimes when we try to look for the sense of I, we may not get the most subtle one. We might just be getting a more coarse one.
I can't touch the feeling, but it's not there, but I'm not, איך להגיד, לא קיימת.
Non-existent.
It's
You don't exist.
No, it's...
One has to be very careful talking about emptiness. When you say not existent, you have to complete the sentence. Do you mean not inherently existent, not existing at all? What do you
לא,
mean?
להפך, אני אמרתי הפוך, הוא לא שם, אבל אני לא קיימת.
It is not,
You exist,
but she still exists.
yes.
It's not, she's not non-existent. So there's a sense of a mental thing.
Anyway, this is normally a process, an ongoing process. One has to keep checking again and again and going back to the teachings and trying it in our experience and so on and so forth. So it's a long-term thing, and we're certainly not going to get it the first time. We have to keep trying again and again. So don't hold too strongly what experience you had this time. And I think that realistically, one probably needs to be in a very quiet, peaceful situation to be able to even recognize this sense of an inherently existing I. So like a yogi meditator in retreat, in a cave or in the hut, far away from noise and people and all these kind of busy things, and just really, like all day long, watching their mind, watching their experience. And even in that kind of situation, someone told me, they say it could take a year, a year just to be able to recognize this false sense of self or I. So it's there, but it's something really, really subtle. So we have to be in the right state of mind to be able to recognize it. And they also say that even when you do get a sense of that false I, the inherently existing I, you shouldn't immediately jump on it and then start tearing it apart. Instead, you should let it kind of grow and become more and more vivid, more and more clear. Almost like pump it up, try to make it stronger. So that then when you do start to, use reasons to tackle it, to fight it, it'll work better. But if you immediately try to jump on it, it's just going to vanish. But that doesn't mean you've realized emptiness. So I'm just saying, it's kind of a long-term process, and we're just sort of dipping our toes in the water to get a, feeling for it.
Now, like last year, I see when I look for the eye, there's a quiet, there's a big quiet, like
Quiet, did you say?
quietness.
Quietness,
Like
yeah.
everything is included, when it's like a space. I cannot say anything else about it. This is a silence, place that have no borders, and the sounds and the sensation are in it. There's not me, but there's a maybe it's awareness.
Mm. But is that the feeling of I you have when, for example, somebody, accuses you, insults you, blames you, criticizes you? No.
When somebody insults me and I get angry or something, I have the feeling of solid I.
Yeah.
But when I meditate,
Yeah.
there's a huge silence and no.
Yeah. Well, so that's the thing. What we're trying to do is to get that sense of this solid I, the emotional I, the I that gets upset, that gets excited. But then, this is the problem. When we try to look for it, it kind of disappears. And one of my teachers said something. I can't remember if I told this group or not, but because they say that one thing they say is that it's good to complement our study and meditation on emptiness with other kinds of practices, such as purification. You see, it's good to do purification practice and also build up merit, accumulate merit. So they have all these additional practices that are done on the side, complementary, purifying your negative karma, building up good karma. And I never understood why. Why do we have to do those things? So this one teacher explained the reason. He said that, so we have this sense of a real solid I, and then when we try to look for it, it disappears. And it disappears into our delusions, into our emotions, our disturbing emotions. So the more kind of disturbing emotions we have, the more hiding places the I has. The I can hide our disturbing emotions, and it's harder to find. And he said it's a little, we could compare it to looking for a thief or looking for a terrorist. If it's, say, a village, a town with all these doorways and cellars and alleys and places where the thief can disappear. The police are chasing them and he can just vanish. He can hide in one of these hiding places. So then it's very hard to catch. But on the other hand, if you can get this person into a big open field, like a big football field. Did I mention that one before? Yeah, I'm not talking about a football field filled with
empty.
An empty football field, not full of football players and cheerleaders and crowd and so on. Just empty, and big, empty field. So if you can get this thief in that area, then it's very easy to catch because there's no place to hide.
Plain sight.
So in a similar way, when we do purification, we are trying to clear out a lot of our disturbing emotions, our anger, our, karmic seeds. So we're trying to make our mind more and more clear, like the big empty field. So then when we try to search for the I, fewer places for it to hide. It's easier to catch. So when I heard that explanation, I thought that made sense, and the reason why doing more work on ourselves to purify our mind is an important complement, additional practice, helpful practice for emptiness. Anyone else? Yeah.
For me, that idea that the I doesn't exist and we created that, we invented that as humans, gives me a lot of freedom. Because if I'm body and I mind, okay, and in my mind, as you said, it's a flow of thoughts, memories, feelings, emotions, perceptions. So when someone, offend me, or he yelled at me, I can be present to, okay, if the I doesn't exist, so I can't be offended.
Who is offended?
Who is offended? Okay? So so at that moment when some feeling arises like anger, I have anger, but I'm not anger because there is no I. So the same way, I have an arm, but I'm not my arm. I have a leg, but I'm not my leg. I'm not my fear. I'm not my anger. So I can separate that, and I can say, okay, I'm angry, yes, but okay, I have anger at that moment. So also, so I can release more easily, you know, that attachment to my feelings and you know the normal way of reacting to that person. So.
Yeah, these are kind of practical applications of this idea in your daily life. You know, I think Anna talked about that as well, isn't it? Having to go to this meeting that was going to be quite difficult, and you beforehand you looked for the I that was nervous, that was anxious, and was able to somewhat dissolve it, so you were much less nervous and anxious at the meeting. So yeah, whenever we find ourselves feeling some kind of strong emotion, anger, anxiety, depression, fear, jealousy, whatever, one thing we can do is just to look at that I. You know, is there really an I there? I mean, those emotions are there, those are part of our mind, so they do exist. They are there in our mind, but they're impermanent. They come and go. They're not permanent. But the sense of an I who is feeling that emotion, who is like behind it or under it, I am angry. That's not real. So if you can see that or get some sense of that, it helps the sense of I dissolve, and then the emotion will seem less strong and vivid and powerful. It might still be there, but it probably won't last as long, it won't be as strong. So that's a very helpful way of using this idea. Doesn't mean you fully realized emptiness, but it's just a way of applying the idea of emptiness in daily life.
And you know, it makes me be more compassionate and more with the other person, because since there is no I, it's like I can be with you more easily.
Mm. Yeah, because when we have a strong sense of I, a real solid I, then there's more of a sense of separation with the other person. There's a strong I over here and a strong you over there, but if we can lessen or lighten that sense of I, and also get some sense that the other person isn't as solid and real as they appear to be. They're not really that horrible person they appear to be. The whole experience becomes much softer. Lama Yeshe would use this expression, concrete view. Did you hear that before? You know, concrete, like hard stuff. Yeah, it's really hard. He says, our normal view of things is like that, concrete. Very hard, very solid. There's a concrete I over here who's just been insulted by this concrete, horrible person over there, and I'm really angry, so, you know, it's not really like that if we have some understanding of emptiness. So when we get a little understanding of emptiness and start to apply that, things will seem less concrete and more kind of transparent and soft and gentle. Yeah? So he says it softens this concrete view. And that really helps to deal with those kind of situations, deal with our emotions better. And like you say, it helps pave the way or make space for compassion, kindness, more positive ways of responding, rather than angry and defensive and attacking and so on. Wouldn't it be nice if everybody in the world could understand this? Yeah. Especially some of the presidents. Yeah.
How do we apply this understanding of emptiness with karma? Because for me, it feels a lot of the time like I should be doing good deeds so that the future me will benefit from this, or because it feels like this concrete concept of an I is inherent in this idea of why you should be doing good or why you will benefit from this view of karma.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, they say that if we understand emptiness correctly, it doesn't undermine our conviction in karma and certainty of the need to live according to karma. Just the opposite. It will reinforce the sense that karma exists, karma is true, and I must follow it. So they say if you are studying emptiness and meditating on emptiness, you know, and if you're starting to feel that you're starting to lose touch with karma, like karma doesn't make any sense, it doesn't exist, and so on, that's starting to slip away, it means you're going in the wrong direction with the understanding of emptiness. So they say it's really important. Huh?
Nothing matters, nihilism.
Yeah, yeah. So they say that's actually very dangerous, because if you do start to lose your certainty about karma, there's the danger of just thinking anything goes. I can do anything, nothing matters. I can kill people if I don't like them. I can yell and shout and scream and hurt. So then it becomes quite dangerous. So they say that you should always check if you are starting to get an understanding of emptiness, and then your understanding of karma should remain strong and even become stronger. I'm just saying that as an aside, but that's not really answering your question. There's different levels of understanding karma. Like in the beginning, you know, when people are first learning about the spiritual path and about karma, then it is very much the sense of an I is very much emphasized. You know, if you do something bad, you will suffer in the future. Yeah. So, I mean, that's because it is important. That's like the first step on the path, is to look at what we're doing, what kind of behavior we're doing, because it's quite possible we are doing things that are negative, and we're creating suffering for ourselves, suffering for others. So we need to almost kind of reinforce the sense of self, just to say, okay, you know, I don't want to suffer. No, I don't want to suffer. Therefore, I have to make sure that I don't create the things that will cause suffering.
First turning of the wheel.
Yeah. And actually, the teachings on emptiness, I mentioned this previously, but maybe you weren't here, they actually come right at the end of the path. They're not normally taught right at the beginning. I mean, that's not always true. You know, some teachers will talk, like Lama Zopa Rinpoche, you will talk about emptiness right away from the beginning, even if there's very new people there. But normally, if you look at the teachings, the teachings on emptiness come later. And Alex Berzin mentions this as well. I think, did I send you that article from Alex Berzin?
You did.
Right, because the first session we were talking about the importance of a healthy sense of self, a healthy sense of I, before we start deconstructing the I. So, you know, that's really, really important. Because otherwise, if you don't have a healthy sense of I, and also feelings about compassion and love and ethics and so forth, you start deconstructing things, then you might be left with nothing. So we do need to, you know, make sure we have a healthy sense of I and of other, and the need to live our lives in a way that we don't harm others, and we help others, we create good karma and so on. So that's kind of the basis, the foundation. Then on top of that, you know, we start looking at the I. What exactly is this I who is creating karma, experiencing the results of karma, interacting with others, and so on? Does that make sense? So it's actually a kind of higher level of the teachings. I don't know if that's answering your question.
It's a bit like, because it's hard to understand that everything is changing. It feels like karma is like, the I is the address, and then I do something good, and how will it know how to benefit me in the future if there is no I that is staying permanent?
Well, there is a conventionally existing I. there is an I. We call it the conventionally existing I, the merely labeled I. That does exist. So, we can say that does do actions. We do good actions, we do harmful actions, and when we do actions, imprints are left on our mind. That does exist. Those imprints do exist. And then sometime later, it could be a different I. It might not be the one of this lifetime. It could be a later one of some other lifetime. But it's some continuation of this I. That I will experience results of the actions that we do. So that doesn't contradict emptiness. It doesn't contradict the absence of a permanent or an independently existing, real, solid I. So there can be the absence of such I's, but karma still does operate. Causes are created, effects are experienced. So that's not contradicted by an understanding of emptiness. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So, like a bodhisattva, someone on the bodhisattva's path, because understanding emptiness is very important, an essential part of that path. So a bodhisattva would know there's no, inherently existing I, but there is still a relatively or conventionally existing I, and whatever I do will make a big difference, both to myself in the future and to others. And therefore, I want to make sure I create only good karma, good things, and not anything bad that will be the cause of suffering for myself and others. So they have even more conviction in the importance of living a good life and doing good things and refraining from harmful things. Does that make sense? And it's all done within the understanding of no solid, real, inherently existing I. Sarah?
You gave an example of the river where you have a lot of water coming through, but I see the eye as the borders of the river when you have a lot of mind going through a lot of thoughts, but the borders are giving the shape to the river, yes?
You're saying you see the eye as the borders of the river, giving shape to the river? I don't know. Maybe that's. As long as you don't see the eye as something fixed and permanent, and saying it's like borders sounds a little bit too concrete, a little too fixed. It's not like that. It's not sort of something fixed. There's the rivers of our body. Our physical body is changing, flowing through time. Our mind is also changing, flowing through time. And just in relation to, on top of, as a designation, as a name, we say I on top of this. I don't know if we really need borders, but I'll think about that. And by the way, your question last time, is it, you feel like you're getting it answered now?
Yeah,
a little bit. Huh? Sorry? It's what?
We discussed that previously, yes. The merely labeled I.
Huh?
I don't hear you.
Yeah,
I said we discussed that the merely labeled I. We discussed that, yes.
The merely labeled I, okay. Yeah.
But there is something constant. And this something, though karma is changeable, mind is changing, body is changing, there is something that passes from life to life that is the object, is a thing that experiences the changing karma. So though everything is changing, there is something, very something.
Yeah. Yeah,
No, it's not the hard disk. It is, no, it is
something that goes from life to life.
Yes,
yeah.
Because the substance, okay? Because if if there is nothing that if there is no inner essence, okay, that is passing. I don't know the word. If there is nothing that
she wants something. She wants a substance to own.
No.
Something to own.
No.
Well,
no.
it's.
If we look at it, and Buddhism is very reason. It deals with reason. So if everything is changing, what is experiencing? What is the long during lives? What is the thing that is experiencing the karma that is definite?
Well, they say it's a subtle part of the mind. The subtle part of the mind that
which is merely labeled.
Doesn't die.
Mind is merely labeled.
No, it is. It is merely labeled. Yeah.
It is merely labeled. Everything is merely labeled.
It's meaning.
Our language is so labeled.
Yeah.
Does not have inherent
Because if we say, oh, it's the mind that goes from one life to another, then immediately we grasp onto that and think, oh, it's an inherently existing mind.
No, it's not.
So we have to understand that too is merely labeled. But to really understand what it means to be really merely labeled, they say we have to understand emptiness first. So we can talk about this, we can get some kind of conceptual understanding of it, but they say to really understand how things exist conventionally, we first have to understand emptiness. That's why I was saying, what was your name? Me'il.
Light.
I was saying, you know, we can't really see the conventionally existing I because it's kind of hidden under these wrong conceptions about the I. So we have to be able to remove, you know, the wrong conception about the I, and then we can see how the I does exist conventionally. So they say that, so in a way it's like understanding the conventional existence of the self is even more difficult than understanding emptiness.
Comes only after.
Didn't you tell us at the beginning of the lesson that yogis, many years ago, practicing for many years and experiencing emptiness, could see the karma?
No, I wasn't talking about yogis who see emptiness. I was talking about yogis before the Buddha or at the time of the Buddha who could see their past lives and they could see karma. And then based on those experiences, they believe there's a permanent I, permanent self or soul that's going from life to life. So that's what I was talking about.
Realizing emptiness.
No. They hadn't realized. No, they didn't realize
It happens
emptiness.
today also.
No, I thought I was confused. It's because I thought that when you realize emptiness, that's when you can actually, you know, see.
No. In order to see past lives, you don't have to realize emptiness. You can get that ability just through concentration. All you have to do is... But I say just... But in a way, it's easier. It's easier to get that than to get an understanding of emptiness. But yeah, they say with concentration, super strong concentration, like karma biting and then beyond, then you can achieve these different kinds of clairvoyance, one of which is remembering past lives, and you can also see the future, you can see other worlds, and so on. But but it's good to know that, because some people may think, oh, that person can remember their past lives, they must be a Buddha. No.
So that's what,
No.
I was a bit confused. So
You can have that kind of experience long before enlightenment, and you can still be completely engulfed in samsara, cyclic existence. So, I mean, it's an achievement. It's definitely an achievement, but it's considered a samsaric achievement rather than a,
because of what his question about karma, and so I thought that there might be a connection when you can actually see after realizing emptiness where karma can bring you.
Mm-hmm.
so it has nothing to do.
What is this word realizing emptiness? What does it mean?
What?
People are using
Realizing.
realizing. I don't know, what are you talking about?
You just went to the Copan course. Didn't they talk about it there? I'm joking. Maybe you didn't.
Yes, a very important role here.
No, realization there's different kinds of realizations. One is,
It's more complicated than not only one realization.
Yes.
They are worse than Jews, I'm telling you.
They're what?
It's worse than Judaism, I'm telling you. Seriously, I'm very serious. I'm serious.
You mean more complicated?
More sophisticated. You know, we have an idiom in Hebrew. We say that in our heritage, called the Talmudic heritage, many years of sages, blah, 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 and they have argument how many angels can stand on the edge of the needle. כמה מלאכים יכולים לעמוד על קוצה של מחט. So I don't understand. I don't understand what is realizing on him. What is realizing on him?
It means you experience it.
I mean, there is a
It's
candle.
there in your
Okay?
mind.
There is a candle, okay? And there is fire on top of the candle. Okay? Until you put your finger inside, it's just intellectualizing that you may get burned. When you put your finger inside, stopped into נגמרה אינטלקטואליזציה, אתה יודע שהם נשרפים. You know that you get burned.
And you get burned.
So it doesn't matter what somebody else will tell you and explain to you.
So how is it parallel to our question?
Realizing emptiness is in the same way. That you experience emptiness directly, just like you experience the fire.
Maybe use another example, chocolate. If somebody tells you, oh, chocolate is really delicious, and you say, I've never tasted it, tell me what it tastes like. You can't get the person to understand the taste of chocolate. Only they have to put it in their mouth, and then, that's the taste of chocolate. So that's the meaning of realizing emptiness. It means you taste it. It's not just words you've heard from somebody else or you read in a book. You are experiencing it. You know it from your own experience. Does that make sense?
But even Dalai Lama said he thinks he is sometimes close to emptiness. Not am I wrong? So, sorry?
No, he has said, I've heard him say that he's had experience. Yeah.
What are we talking about? That's the Dalai Lama, who was brought up on Buddhism since he was 3.5 years. What are we talking about?
Why do you do that? Why do you need to realize emptiness? What's the benefit?
I don't know. You ask me, I don't know. I don't think it's benefit.
I ask you the question that I always ask you. Do you have suffering?
Yes.
Where is it coming from? Because you don't realize emptiness. No, it doesn't come from your white hair.
Why should I believe what you're saying?
You don't believe.
Don't believe. Please don't believe. Test it. Test. And test, and test, and test. If you have other way to decrease your suffering, then do it, by all means.
No, but I'm asking, why do you need the concept of emptiness?
Because it is the root cause of our delusions. That the woman that doesn't approve your contract is from the other party, not from your party. I mean, you know that very well.
It's a common joke.
She's a rightist and you are a leftist. That's why she doesn't approve the contract. And it's all in your mind, because you cannot realize emptiness at this stage. You cannot, I cannot, no, definitely.
Of course not.
Okay, but there is suffering that this causes.
I don't see the connection between suffering and the
יש
eye.
פרמיטה שנקרא סבלנות, אי אפשר היום להבין מה שאפשר, time and condition, קודם condition, יותר ויותר ויותר, יותר ויותר ויותר. If you practice, more and more you understand more, and your suffering is lessened.
I understand more what? Emptiness?
Yes.
The way things
Emptiness is so you want me to trust?
No,
just to say, wait.
You want to experience. Why are you here? You saw something, right? You want not to suffer.
I want not to suffer, yes.
That's it. So don't trust in anything. That's what the Buddha says. Just do it. More
check it.
Check, experience what you can experience.
זה מלא תרגולים, lots and lots of experience, years, practice.
Did you hear what Susie said earlier? Susie was talking about how she's, checking her sense of self, and it really helps to, cool down. So this is her experience. If you try it out, you may also have some similar experience.
This I understand what Susie, I'm trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
How is emptiness connected to it?
Because we have a strong feeling of a real I.
Yes.
I exist, I'm real, I'm really here. And then we're super obsessed with our I. Yes. We want only good things to happen to me. We don't want any bad things to happen to me. So we're constantly struggling to try to keep away all the bad things and have only the good things, but it doesn't work anyway. And so every time we get what we don't want or we don't get what we do want, we suffer. And it's all because of this sense of a real I, which, according to Buddhism, isn't even there. It's all like a creation of the mind, a fabrication of the mind. So if we experience emptiness, we're free from that. We're no longer obsessed with an I. And then our mind is much more peaceful and calm and clear. And we have this energy that we can use to help people, do good things for others instead of... Huh?
I said this is also in Judaism, and that's why people that help each other, they suffer less, even if they, let's say, lose their sons, let's say, but they have communities that they help each other, they suffer less. Because the I, it's not me, mine, and it's looking and seeing others. But it takes practice. It's not by talking about it, it's not from the brain. It's like the chocolate.
Trying it out. Yes?
Are you saying that after realization of emptiness, when bad things happen, you don't suffer?
Yeah. Believe it or not.
Surprise!
How come?
Surprise!
Because there's no longer this. There's no longer a sense of an I. Yeah, and also the way we view others, the way we view things that happen to us, it's totally transformed, totally changed. So, yeah, they say like a bodhisattva, there's this example, it's really horrific in the Chandrakirti's text. He said, even if a bodhisattva is captured and put somewhere and somebody's taking bits of flesh, one bit at a time from their body, the bodhisattva doesn't suffer and instead feels nothing but compassion for this person who's doing this to him. No anger, no hatred, no poor me, isn't this terrible? Only compassion.
Don't try this at home, not today. Not today.
Yeah, but it just shows, it just shows the extreme cases that one might find oneself in and still not suffer. So, I mean, this is a, highly accomplished bodhisattva, but it just shows that the realization of emptiness really takes away the foundation for experiencing suffering. And in fact, not only that, they say when the bodhisattva has attained the direct realization of emptiness, that means really having the chocolate in the mouth, not just smelling it, but really having it there. Not only do they not suffer, they feel bliss. So even if somebody's cutting them, torturing them, it's bliss. It's not pain, it's bliss. I mean, it's hard to believe. But
Buddha gave his body, didn't he, to
a tiger? Yeah.
Yeah, the green could be.
Yeah. So our whole experience of things just gets totally transformed. Amazing. Should we have a break? Huh?